Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, everyone. All those who've gone, those who just arrived. The room is filling up. There was lots of oi, oi, oi earlier on. I'm not going to be asking for audience participation in my set. I'm just going to give you a few of my poems. And I'm going to start off with a poem about a man that you would not have seen today because there's a rail strike on. So there's no chance of you haven't seen this man because he's a man that you might see on the train. But if any of you ever do catch the train, are there many train users around here? Many people who get, yeah, Mogs, yeah, over there, yeah. Well, okay, so you might know this guy. You might recognize him. And I always have to start this poem by saying, you know, this is not an autobiographical poem, okay? But I am the madman on the train, the one who drinks special brew from the can and wants to share his last drop with you and wants to hold your hand, told you how his wife saved his life and the history of his land, urging you to press your mobile phone against the carriage window at crucial moments to document its magnificence. I am the madman on the train who told you that beauty will save the world and that it will start with loving someone, who asked when you had been and how you had lived and why we were all going. Yes, I am the madman on the train who for 15 minutes was your strangest friend and allowed your view to wash away the shadows of the demons who, fed by fear, oppressed him all the office long. Yes, I am the madman on the train. And if you see me in the supermarket singing to myself, then hug me and you will be freed. Okay, we've had those who were here at the very beginning of this afternoon for our first set at 2 o'clock were privileged to hear Rachel reading, and she read quite a few haiku. I don't write a lot of haiku, but there are a couple that I'm going to read today because they're quite relevant here to the rugby club. And the first actually is a tanker. So a tanker is like when you have 5 lines of haiku, and then usually somebody else, rather than the same person, somebody else responds with another final 2 lines, and that turns the haiku into a tanker. And this tanker is about a rugby match, and that's why I'm reading it here. It was about a rugby match where the Quins, Carmarthen Quins, were playing Llanelli. It wasn't the Scarlets. It was after the regions, so there was still a Llanelli team who were in the same division as the Quins. It was kind of October evening, so the sun was going down. I was watching the match, and then I had to take the bloody dog for a walk. So I'd written the haiku, and then I took the dog for a walk, and then when I came back, I saw the score line. So that's kind of the last 2 lines that make it a tanker. A lot of my poems are short, so I do talk a lot to try and fill the space. So this is Derby Review haiku, full-time tanker. Quin's colours twilight, no wintry sun scarlet, burn sky of Fyddin sky. Proud white on green, crossed just once. Dog walked 791. And the just one more. Oh, two. I'm going to do 2. Yeah, one haiku and one other short poem. A little bit about death, as Rachel was talking about. But I think probably the last time I was in this room, because it only opens a function room generally. I've had a couple of pints on the other side while I went for my chips. But the last time I was in here, I think was Buddy's funeral. Buddy used to play for Kidwelly, and his son walked in to the wake, and I just looked at him, and he looked so like Buddy. Jamie looks just like him. So this is called Buddy. A tall sapling lad arrives with a dimpled jaw and father's rugby jaw. I'll read that again, because haiku meant to be read twice, especially if you cock it up the first time. A tall sapling lad arrives with a dimpled and father's rugby jaw. And I do spend a lot of time on the train, or I used to. I used to commute to Swansea an awful lot. I wasn't a madman. Well, maybe I was, I don't know. But I was coming home late one day after working late in the office, coming back. It was not long after my father-in-law had died, and my wife was texting me. It was like 8 o'clock in the evening. I'm on the train. I'm still an hour away from home, and she was quite upset and what have you, you know. And what do? You know, there's nothing I can do to help her, to be honest. So I sent her a text message. So this poem is simply a text message, really. It's about a fleece, because her dad and I, probably there's one thing we had in common. We both wear fleeces all the time, and I had an old fleece of his. So I just responded to Di's text. I'm wearing his coat. It fits me well. I didn't think it would. How did it fit him? He was bigger than he seemed at the end. I hope you still like it. We wear it differently. He had more layers than me. I always wanted to be Dave Allen with a glass of whiskey there beside me all the way through the show. But nice pints, good pint of Madry. Make sure you go to the bar, get your drinks in, keep the money flowing over the bar. Rugby Club is supporting us well here, and there's some lovely festival glasses too. I'm going to read you five poems that are largely about mental health, and it's something we need to talk about. I've gone through some bad experiences. Hi, Rich. My mate Anthony was bipolar. He committed suicide. That caused me a lot of grief. That caused further problems for me. But it's not all doom and gloom. Do you know what I mean? We celebrate people, and we just need to talk about things. So this this first poem then is one that I wrote for Ant after he was locked away sectioned several times during the last few years. So I used to go and visit him in down in Llanelli or in Cwmserin up in Carmarthen. And this was after going to visit him. And I took him, you know, I didn't know what to take him. Do you know what I mean? He's a writer, he was a poet like me. So what do you take somebody when they're locked away in a secure unit, you know? So I took him a pad and a pen so he could write. But I took him a blue pen, and he absolutely hated blue pens. Everybody he had to write in black, So anyway, this is me going for a walk afterwards. It's called Night Walk. The moon is white and unshaven, light shining through soft bristles on chin and crown, a circumferential full halo. Clouds drift like confusion, confounding clear sight, muddy reflections of a lunar-inspired misdirection. Quiet and subdued in such a small celestial enclosure, and so close to so much blackness. In my night, he is the guiding reflection of the brightest star in our constellation, and to this night sky, I can only offer to his consternation thin indigo inked words. So this one's not for Ant, but this is it's about perhaps the confusion and the anxiety that comes with bipolarism or other conditions and not quite understanding what's going on. It was originally called Writing an Image, and it was written in response to a picture. But in October, there's a 12-inch vinyl coming out where myself and some other poets have recorded our poetry with a three-piece Swedish hardcore punk band. And so this poem is recorded on that album, and it kind of changed its name to I Step Back. I step back, always one step back to take 3 steps forward. Step back, but I am rushing in and live. Did I step forward, or did I settle delicately and balance, superfluous and redundant, to those who now soar high and free? I am trying to capture a moment, and nature defines life, and life constricts with its uniformity and thick inked structure. Is the quill mightier than the thorn? From the inner recesses, I step back. I am numbed by mundane. I need to see the beauty from the inspired inside, need to feel the intricate print of the magnified beauty of an unnatural construction. I step back, fragile. The mind pain is strong, full of red and puzzling, swirling purples. I want a simple grey scale, scaled up, zoomed in, turbo zoom. Freedom slips the constrained tangles, brambles, coils, and cultivates. Will I have been beautiful? Okay, I'm looking for another one for Ant. This was one that I read at his wake, and it was one. It's odd, really, because it was the first time I ever read it, and I wrote it very quickly. Was at his wake, at his funeral, and yet this was the sentiments in this poem, which could be about two people, could be about one person, could be about bipolarism. Were sentiments that I tried to express to him before. I mean, he was bipolar, he was also alcoholic. And I can remember trying, late one night to say these things to him. My mate said, don't worry, Dom, there's no point, Dom. He's pissed, he can't hear you. The poet and his friend walked so very close to each other. They were cut from the same cloth. They shared poetry and art and disagreed about music. They stared at the beautiful women, loved to pass the bottle. They walked so close, they almost held hands, fingertips all but touching, separated by the slightest shimmer of a mirror. On his side of the glass, his friend followed one path, reason. In the poet's face, there were two reflected roads, one brightly lit and yellow bricked, one bitter dark and hell thought dimmed, parallel into the flow. On occasion, his friend would join the poet in the sun. They would dance and sing, divine and document. Oh, how they loved and lived. Then his friend could step back into reason, scorched, but uninjured, cooled. The poet found himself burned, cold, alone on the low road. His friend could skip through curtains, Janus in the court of Bacchus, power to protect himself, but never the strength for one shard-shattering osculation, the poet's salvation. Okay, two more on this kind of theme. The one is a poem that I wrote for Ant a few years after his death, and is a little bit more celebratory, so that's a bit more upbeat, and it's also a villanelle. Rufus is a master of the villanelle, or mistress of the villanelle. Mistress of the villanelle. That sounds like an assassin again, doesn't it? Yeah. So I felt I don't often write to form, but I felt I owed Ant, to do something proper. So this is about a place called Trollhättan, which is a lake in Sweden, a place where we go. Used to go a lot. I'm trying to tell you some things about this poem because it's got some personal references. Ant had this massive idea, amazing idea, that he's going to start up a business. He's going to buy a white van and sell cigarettes and beer. And that was life. Cigarettes and beer, rah rah rah. Cigarettes and beer, rah rah rah. And on this on this lake, there's like late in the afternoon. When the sun catches the lake, there's a rock face, which it's called Trollhättan because this rock face is supposedly the frozen face of a troll, and it's really rough. It's like not smooth, but when the light comes off the lake, it just like ripples all the way down. You can see these reflections all the way down the rock face, and you really think you shouldn't be able to, but you can only see it when you're swimming out in the middle of the lake. So I call those the water ghosts. And then the other thing is half of Anthony's ashes were buried in Carmarthen with his mum and dad, and the other half we took to Sweden and we scattered. Well, it was meant to be in the lake, but I went in March and it was like that thick with ice, so they were scattered on top of the lake. But my mate who was with me, Jonas, he said, "Look, Dom, said every time we ever go swimming in this lake now, we'll be swimming with Anthony." Borada, Mr. Jones. Let's meet our hosts. I'm not too sure we have been here before. swimming with ant, dancing with water ghosts. Cool, burned shins, scorched lungs, hot organs sclerosed. Snow fell as we climbed to the Trollwyn shore. Borodar, Mr. Jones, let's meet our hosts. Light burns but creates frozen stone outposts. Birch ever swaying echoes, rah, rah, roar. Swimming with ant, dancing with water ghosts. I miss your gentleness and our outrageous toasts. To spoken word, the merrier the more. Borodar, Mr. Jones, let's meet our hosts. Now we will have our fun with Facebook posts. Teapot truth, my confidence to restore. Swimming with ant, dancing with water ghosts. Bipolar sweet sorrow, brilliant artistry boasts. A great poet and lover of punk lore. Borodar, Mr. Jones, let's meet our hosts. Swimming with ant, dancing with water ghosts. We kept his Facebook page going, and every now and then somebody posts something to Anthony. Do you know what I mean? We still talk to him on Facebook. And I made a Facebook post at that time when we went and scattered the ashes, really saying, "Oh, you know, it's all great, it's over. You know, I'm not missing him anymore. You know, we're celebrating his life and stuff." And that was all rubbish, really. I was still grieving, and I went into a very poor state of mental health for a period. And then, so this is a poem, right? About, because I got help, I got counselling. I was lucky. I was working for the university, and all students and all staff immediately get counselling. You can just go straight and get a counsellor. You know, if anybody else has to wait forever on the NHS, and I would hate to see any sort of statistic as how many people have killed themselves while they're waiting for counselling on the NHS. You know, but I was really lucky, and for the first time in my life ever, I'd really spoken to somebody. The counselling was really good. And there were some good days. There are always good days, you know, even when you're in recovery, it doesn't mean that you're better again. And you know there may be bad days to come. But this poem is about celebrating a good day during the process of recovery. It's not all over. I'm fine now. I'm good now. You know, don't stress out, okay? I'm good now. But this is about a period in the recovery when it was one of those really good days. So this is walking down on the beach in Ferryside. For those of you who heard the Swedish contributions earlier, Colin read a poem about Ferryside in the aftermath of a storm. None of us can picture that at the moment, can we? But this was early winter. The mid-morning January sun casts long shadows and tips a wink at this mirror of a summer's evening. At dawn, he's skinny dipped in the icy Towie and now basks on her naked belly, calm, full of charm and confidence. Emboldened by his daring deed, the year is so very young. There are many tides to come. But for now, clean air and brightness bless this estuary flirtation and the easy sharing of secrets. A lost mooring loops like a navel piercing. Chilled spring water carves ancient canyons in the blink of an eye. A playful hoopla installation, teased from beneath the surface. Great machines pause. Blue sky, so barnacled, easy to reach. Hey, look at that! I've been published in more than one book, right? So I'm gonna pick up the other book just to. This poem is in that book as well, but I just wanted to pick this book up to read it from. It's another Swedish poem. It does. Oh God, I'm going to sound really morbid now. It does have an undercurrent of mental health issues, but it's a fun poem. It's about going to Sweden, and my mum asked me to bring her back a troll. Right, you know, and I think she meant like a key ring or a fridge magnet or something. But she must have thought like trolls. Sweden must be full of trolls. You know what I mean? It's not. You go into tourist information, and all you can get is a moose. And even a moose isn't a moose, because he went there and said he wanted to get a moose magnet. They said, no, that's an elk. That's not a moose, that's an elk. Anyway, I thought it was a moose. So that's all I could get from my mum. So again, in this, well, you've already met the lake, if you like, Trollwyn, so you know what that is. And Lopis is Swedish for like a second-hand shop. So my mum said, bring me a troll. You asked me to bring you a troll, the monster under the bridge, the monster under the bed. How could you ask for such an artifact? The Disneyfication of terror. I searched on the high street, I searched in back alleys, in Lopis, I spoke to those hunters of old, but I had to go alone, to the Trollhun, to the depths. I gave myself to her in fear and vulnerability, a baptism fierce and dangerous, a leap of faith. There were no trolls, only the temptation of release. We can be reborn 100 times. I came home and found the troll under a desk in the silver strands of deceit and corporate psychopathy. I brought you a moose so that we can smile. And today, I promise to choose happiness. I like this one. I've read this a few times. It's called Letter. And that's because, again, you know, like the one I said for my wife was a text. Yeah, that's all it was. And this was also a letter, right? Piece of paper. This is what I wrote on a piece of paper, stuck it in an envelope and sent it off to my friend. My friend who's a writer, lives in Portugal. And she'd been sending me letters, and I'm rubbish at responding to emails, let alone writing a letter back. And then she sent me a Christmas card. So I thought I better send it. So I read this down. The first time I ever read this was in Howl in Swansea. Does anybody know the open mic event in Swansea? And I went there. I read the piece of paper, stuck it in the envelope, and as I went home, popped it in the letterbox. And I've enjoyed reading this, and people say afterwards, "Oh, your wife must really love that poem." I'm like, no, it's not for her. I am not waiting, for there is no time, no season. Like Doctor Who, we warp the space-time continuum, spontaneous hours around a spindle called the present. In great waters, I am never lost. I am threaded to the shore where my words shape your body. Friendship is immediate and dialogical, a clumsy undressing of toughened skins. You stripped me later with an empathy so intense, it filled space, an excluded place. Passion pared away epidermal grip, slowly laughter sliced another layer, and the careful scalpel of understanding bared me further. I bore you baptismal from the Soman, marking our creative communion. Alanteo fingers fashioned waxen wings. Intimacy, razor sharp, skinned me. Your heartbeat makes me cry. You ignited the very salt in me, cleansing energies, raw, open, vulnerable, but burning. I demand your purity and integrity like oxygen. Uncertainties we share like kisses. Your touch is unknown, yet when I see your smile again, you will cradle my embryonic soul in your virgin palms, defenseless, but safe from when or where. And once all is dissected with these beautiful instruments, what is left but love? I should read you one I did write for my wife, shouldn't I, really? There's that one. Okay, so this was on a trip to Ireland. I'd been with a group of dancers, poets, singer-songwriters. There were like 12 of us going over to Ireland to this festival, a place called Tramore, which is down on the south coast, the Tramore Promenade Festival. And they'd collected this group of Welsh troubadours, and we'd gone over there, and I'd seen the marketing. They'd asked for bios, they'd asked for photos, and like months before the event, they were sending us stuff over from Ireland to Wales, and there was amazing leaflets, and all our stuff was on there, and, you know, marketing for this festival was brilliant. Do you know what I mean? There's gonna be loads of people there. So we went over there. I think we caught the overnight ferry. So arrived drunk and tired, and then finally got round to Friday night. And the director of the festival called us all together. He said, right, there is a couple of quid for you. Not a lot. There's an envelope and you all get a few punts. It was still punts then. But there's no program, right? There's no set program. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a list of the pubs and the cafes in town, and you just got to stand down on the promenade. They'll be broadcasting it all day. As soon as you've got yourself a gig, just run down, tell the radio station, they'll broadcast it, and everybody will know. It was great. It was a great festival, really, really good. And we did find stuff, and we tended to collaborate. Because like you'd be terrified going into a bar on your own saying, "Oh, I'm gonna read some poetry. Is that all right?" So we would go in like twos or threes, and we say, "Right, well, I'm gonna do a bit of this. I'm gonna do a bit of that." And there was a poem that I did 7 times while I was there, and I did it with 7 different collaborators. Did it with music. Did it with video. Anyway, forget that one. On the way back, I thought I better write a poem for my wife. So this is called "Coming Home." It's from the festival, and it's for her. I have found your absence in the gentleness between moments. I have heard your gaze in the brown warmth of Irish sun. I dreamed you real in medieval verse, then surrendered my passion to you in every tongue's syllable offered to the bawdy Atlantic. In the soft cloud vapored on the sky by Acre's fall, I prayed your slender limbs and spine. I will curve and line you with my palms. I will kiss your land undone, breathe every touch of cotton and yarn from your skinscape. Shiver you, my tongue-tip sentenced foul, every rosebud flesh, heart blood stiffened by my song of angels' worship, delicately echoing the rolling white force that mists Tremor with a summer's hereith. I do love her, really, I do. Well, the camera probably can't see me when I go over there, can I? I go over there for a glass of water every now and then. Yeah, I'm going to finish with a poem. The one that I spoke about, actually, I kind of call it my Irish poem because it's written about a pub in Ireland, a pub called Mary's Bar. It's a really small, anonymous little bar, but it's somewhere where I always go. You know, I used to travel to Ireland a lot, organizing gigs and the things. I'd travel with groups. I travel on my own. I love traveling. I love going places. I get excited about the train journey or the ferry journey just as much about going to place there. You know, but once I get there, I often get very lonely very quickly. And Mary's Bar was somewhere I knew, like at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, I could go there and there would always be someone to talk to. And I used to take a lot of my mates there. I was traveling with a lot of artists. The artist Ewan Bala came over with me, and this poem is about a conversation of Ewan's with the barmaid, who is also called Mary, but this Mary is Mary's daughter, not the Mary who owned the bar. Yeah, I take a lot of my friends there. I didn't very often take my English friends there. It's a very, very Republican bar, but it's so this poem is about Ewan. It's about that night, and it's about Wales and Ireland and Mary. The woman waits. She is 8,000 years born and has flowed through Laurentide flows. A sage and a seer, nursed 1,000 siblings of a species long since displaced. A sacrificial spouse cracked open a womb that spewed east. But migration matters no more. The stars navigate no longer. Supernovas, but moments, foretelling the arrival of a significant one for the land to welcome home her sun-kissed litter. The vessel now at shrunken rest, matriarchal in urban anonymity, within a gift, a symbol veiling an epistle marks this rebirth, an installation, water-sealed and hard-knuckle woven, tough branches of rebellion bent and interlaced to bear safe a positive force, the power of a creative thought, consummated at this predetermined time, in this predetermined place. The Berber flees, unsettled and unsure, carrying his name in his heart, an isthmus, looking for land, sailing, mechanically propelled, pursued by lens and light to a darkened alley, destined to document his significance. And from the south, brushing shores, superficial trade, man laid naked, an unknown return, epiphany. And she who has waited, she dances like a child. Thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you all for being so wonderfully attentive and for listening. I'm sorry we didn't get any oy's and I didn't shred anything, but it's been wonderful to be here at the festival. And at 6 o'clock, we will be welcoming Frank and Justin to the stage. Frank and Justin coordinate a huge project called Carpet in Cardiff that is a regular spoken word event, but also expands into other projects, almost entire spoken word stage shows. So Frank and Justin will be with us at 6 o'clock. See you then.